I think, commanding and stuff like that, just between all of us. So topic 2 that I really want to get to is how to build a battle group. How do you get a group of people together who's going to be able to dive into these fights and succeed? So here's a question for you guys. How many people do you think you need to form a battle group? What's the minimum number to form a battle group?
5.
20.
Okay.
2.
No,
12.
roaming groups, Havoc squads, 5 is usually fine.
15.
When you want to take on bigger objectives, 20 plus is usually enough, and it's mainly only because you need supply to get through fortified objectives. That's the main thing. But really, to really actually start a battle group, you need 10 people. Who thinks they might know like what type of composition you want in those 10 people?
Out of 10, I would want at least 5 heavies.
Yeah.
So
And
like
elementals.
2 guards, 2 warriors, 3 guards, and 1 LE, a mesmer, a necro, and then 2 whatever.
That's pretty good. The front line was pretty spot on. You always want to have 3 guardians and 2 warriors. 2 warriors for the banners. For your guardians, it's always best to and thanks for all the answers, guys. I'm loving the participation here. It's great. You want your 3 guardians for 1 for great sword staff, 1 for hammer great sword, and 1 for hammer staff, right? So that way you've got 2 staves to empower, you've got 2 great swords for leaps, and you've got 2 hammers for rings, like the hammer 5s, right? So that way all your bases are covered, you got 2 banners in your front line, and for your back line, this is what I would prefer to have. I'd prefer to have 2 Ellies to cycle waters, right? A necro, if you get 2 necros, even better. And then a thief or mesmer, if you can only get 1 necro, thief and a mesmer. And the point of those classes is, well, mesmer obviously for the veils, portal bombs, etc. But stomping, finishing kills, like that's major, and sniping backline players, right? So if the commander's in the room right now, if you could find 10 people that you could make dedicate, or like, you know, ensure their dedication, work with those 10 people, that's all you need to get into World versus World and really start your battle group, because ultimately the numbers on the server kind of dictate that no one and I really advocate for this, no one guild should be too big, right? Because we don't want to have all the people in one guild under one kind of structure, I guess, when it's really more effective to have a bunch of independent guilds that are able to come together when necessary, right? So by doing this and maintaining, you know, all these small individual fight groups, the way you actually build up your battle group is through pugs, right? And I mean, pugs is not an offensive term, it just means pickup group, right? It's people, there's probably there's lots of skilled players who are pugs. I've seen it here this week from our battles in EBG. You guys get to tag when we dive in, you guys are right with us. So, I mean, everybody here has got the will to fight. But it's all about just getting the pugs around your battle group, you know, forming that iron core in the center, and then having these pickup groups as your extra numbers. So I don't know if you guys know about Alexander the Great. What he used to do, he'd send in his hoplite infantry, they'd have this big battle line set up, and then he'd slip around the sides with his cavalry, you know? And at the time, that was undefeatable tactic, right? So as a battle commander, you look at your pugs as your shield wall, your skirmish line. If they're not in TeamSpeak, they're still going to be harassing the enemy stack. They're still going to be taking, you know, dealing damage and stuff like that. So use them that way. You know, if you can't get them in TeamSpeak to actually push on the tag with you, just try to gather them to you. Anyway, that's how you form a big battle group. And the way to keep those people is to build your morale, maintain morale. That's winning fights, taking objectives, stuff like that. You guys all know how World versus World works. So in relation to that, in relation to maintaining morale, it's a good Zerg wipe. We used to have a formula basically. Like when you get wiped as a commander, you're losing about 1/3 of your Zerg after that when you try to respawn. That's a like, even if it's not that many and you got a really tight group, just think that in the back of your mind. When I get wiped here, if I get wiped here, about 1/3 of my Zerg is probably not going to make it back to the tag right away. They might get discouraged. Something's going to happen. So you got to decide which fights you're going to pick, right? And which fights you're going to attack, which fights you're going to retreat from. So how do you guys think, at a glance, you can distinguish a pug group from an organized battle group in terms of enemies?
Tags.
Okay,
Like,
tags.
not tags, like guild tags.
Yep, and what else?
How many char with big hair do they have in the front?
Well,
Cool that, but Realm, you mentioned the tail. That's definitely
How
one.
tight they are.
Yep. Okay, those are all great answers. Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at a group of enemies, you can kind of, as your battle commander, now that you're looking for these things, you'll really start to notice what's going on with them. But guild tags is one, but as a battle commander, you've got literally seconds to decide, even less than seconds. So, trying to identify a common guild tag, that's good to know afterwards, but let your people find that out and report to you. Realm and Glass.
Is there a GVG going on here right away?
I'm
Sorry,
asking.
So.
I'm trying to figure out.
They are. I actually have Jinx in my party right now. So.
Okay, well, let's go up here then, I guess, or somewhere. Yeah, so Glat and Realm, they touched on two really good points. One of them is the tail. How strung out are they? Are they tight when they move together? Are there, little nebulae going off from the main Zerg? Are there a lot of squirrelers? Those are the things you really look for. See if there's a prominent person in the Zerg, or do they have a commander that's really visible? All these things, and you've got to take that in about 3 seconds and make a decision if you're going to stack and fight or if you're going to, stack and retreat, right? Because that's the real way to maintain morale. Retreating from a fight is not a bad thing. If you're going to get wiped, don't fight. When you're battle commanding, that's just a good rule of thumb to follow. And eventually, like I said, over time, you'll come to realize what Zergs you're going to be able to fight and not. Not to say don't fight to get practice, but make smart decisions. If they look like they've got 30 people and you've only got 15 people in TeamSpeak, go try to learn to an objective. Do something where you can get an edge. But at any rate, maintaining morale. Pick your battles. Here's the thing I really wanted to go over big time for everybody. This is really important for everybody to know. When we Zerg battle, there is a pretty well-defined pattern to how we fight. Does anybody know what roughly the 5 call-out sequence you'd go through to start an engagement?
Stack.
Empower.
Mm-hmm.
Static
Veil.
wave.
Building.
Wells.
Leap.
Yeah, all of those.
I think we've listed like 8 things.
Yeah, everybody. It's definitely, it starts with the stack. The stack's important because it hides numbers from the enemy, and you do the empowers. Obviously, you do the boon sharing, stuff like that. The empowers is the second call. You get guardian staff powers. Try not to drop fire fields. I mean, it is a good way to blast into a fight if you've got a huge group with you and you don't have enough guardians to give everybody might. Doing the fire field thing is okay, but usually it's just, Ellie should be tuned to static for the first part of the battle, right? After the empowers, you get your veils. Once, really, simple but great tactic when you use a veil. As soon as you veil, strafe in a certain direction over the veil. Like once your feet cross the veil, call out a direction that you're going to go in. Take advantage of that 8 seconds of invisibility, or however long it is, 5 seconds, to change your position, to different, just somewhere else where you can get a good, the 4th call out, which is leaps. If you can come from an unexpected direction and hit their back line, which is usually the best thing that you want to go for, leap towards their soft squishy classes to get your pulls. That's the best way to leap in. And the final call out is kind of like a multi call out, because when a battle commander calls for the first bomb, right, that means a different thing to 4 separate classes. But as a commander and in battle, you've got about 2 seconds to make all of those call outs. So the reason, like I was talking about earlier, getting a battle culture, getting people on the same page and stuff, it makes it a lot easier for Battle Commander to proceed with the rest of the battle callouts, start making directional calls and stuff, if everybody already knows what to do in that initial bomb, right?
User joined your channel.
After the leaps, you guys have heard me call for leaps into statics, Wells of Corruption on my feet, Hammer 3s and Hammer 5s going up the Guardian Rings and the Warrior Hammer 3s for the cripples. All of that needs to happen on the initial bomb phase, right? So that's the only part I'm going to be going over this week. In terms of like Zerg and callouts, there's a couple other things that I want to go over tonight, but there are 2 more sessions like this at the same time over the next 2 weeks. If you guys are interested in coming back, they're posted on the website for the topics we're going to cover. But I just really wanted to go over the initial bomb phase, the leap phase, all of this stuff tonight, because while everybody's here, we can all kind of get on the same page with that. So does anybody have any, we'll take a couple minutes for some questions here. Does anybody have a question or two about the bomb phase, how we leap, how we bomb, what's going on with that? I noticed your message there. The fire fields work for the initial stack. For an initial fresh right out of the box engagement. Fire fields are okay. You can hammer out of them and do the blast finisher out of the fire field that you're stacked in and still swap to your greatsword if you're not already in combat. So if you've already got the hammer out, that's good. If you got your greatsword out, it's if you're in it's tougher. It basically what I'm trying to say is if you blast fire in the middle of a fight, it might mess up your heals, and it might also mess up your leap rotation.
So when you call for a might in the middle of a fight, you don't want fire fields in that case?
Every regroup after the first stack and leap, the only field that should be going down under our feet on a mid-battle regroup is water. And I'm going to go over in more detail next week about the procedures that we should do for a really tight regroup mid-battle. But suffice to say that after the initial bomb, everybody should be, on cooldowns basically, and having taken a fair bit of damage, we want to get out of the battle right after that first bomb. Once we get a bunch of downs, we want to cleave through the downs, get to a safe place. The field has to be empty so that when the big waters come up and we blast into those, everybody's maximizing their heals and not getting retaliation or something like that, right? Because the mid-battle waters are essential so that people can keep their personal heals in case they almost get, killed during the fight, right? Does anybody else have a question about the leap and bomb?
Can I put in my 2 cents real quick?
Of course.
So here's my thought. Lefty just was talking about who to target or what's most achievable. What I try to do, and please correct me if I'm not doing it right, but what I try to do is on a bomb, I aim for Jor, but that's sort of what me as a Necro should do. But I think generally speaking, the Battle Commander, wherever he jumps, which typically will be in the middle of the back line or the middle of the front line, you want to basically use him as your bomb target.
Yeah, mainly because a little aspect that I actually forgot about the leap and bomb is the pulls, right? That's why it's essential that we have at least 2 Guardians in every frontline party who are going to be wielding greatsword for the for that skill right there, Bonding Blade, right? If we had 2 parties of heavy frontliners and 4 Guardians, that means that up to 20 people could get hit with that Bonding Blade. And if they all had their stability stripped off by a few Wells of Corruption, we might actually be able to snag up to 10 of them, right? And the whole point of Zerg battling is not to steamroll the enemy Zerg, right? If you're fighting a straight 20-20 battle, you're not going to be able to steamroll the enemy Zerg, unless they're, scattered pugs or whatever. But you've got to be really tactical about it. It's about peeling off small sections of their group, regrouping, healing, and then going back in against their group again now that it's smaller.
User joined your channel.
You get to the point where their numbers are so reduced that you can steamroll them, right? Which is what we had great success with at the Battle of Umberglade there on Monday night. The reason we were able to, what was really like Glad just put up some footage of that today, and what was so fascinating about the little bit of footage that he actually put up of that battle was the way that even though we were surrounded on pretty much all sides by surging groups of enemies, most of all of us stayed up during the whole thing, and we were able to dive in probably 5-6 times into separate engagements and not lose huge sections of our Zerg. So that was what was really impressive about that, I think. We had just really incredible sustain. And at any rate, that moves me to my next point, which is training opportunities. I know it's a little bit intimidating if you aren't used to battle commanding, if you're not used to making the callouts very quickly. It's intimidating to go up against some of the organized guild groups that might be running in a prime time, and rightfully so, because if they're organized and they're all focused and they're out to kill you, they're not going to give you a second to consider your options. They're going to be coming right at you. So take every single opportunity you get to train and get comfortable with battle. Be unself-conscious, be daring, be brave. You'll inspire the people following you. Get in there, get into a fight situation. If it's uncomfortable and you get wiped, doesn't matter. If you start getting downed, if you see all your people getting down, don't stop making call-outs. Get yourself comfortable with making the call-outs, and keeping the thing going. There's a couple of really great training opportunities that we're actually looking at taking advantage of ourselves in Edge of the Mists, for example. In not Edge of the Mist, fuck that. Heart of the Mist. There you go. There's all those golems, the little golem training area. They've got a group of about 20 golems all stacked up next to each other. There's just enough room around there, that area, for you to stack up a Zerg and go in and bomb on those golems rather. So that's a perfect place if you've got just 10 people. Go into Heart of the Mists, get them down to that golem thing, get their PvP build, set up as close as you can to World versus World, and practice your bomb. Practice your leap and bomb. Do that if you've got a guild group with you and you're lucky enough to have, a group of people who's going to follow you. Every camp that you go into as a commander, treat it like an intense battle. Go into it, get your stack up before you go in, pick a tactical angle, do the veils, get your practice, do the pulls, get all the fucking guards together and blow them up. Every lord's room, every camp, those are all little opportunities that you can take advantage of. Even though it seems kind of silly, I've done it as a joke from time to time, but realistically, it's actually an opportunity for you to get comfortable with making the callouts and get your Zerg comfortable, doing the actual combat, right? So here's an open kind of question: What do you guys think is the importance of maintaining a constant dialogue with your Zerg? Why is that important?
User left your channel.
They pay attention and stay on you.
That's definitely one thing.
Keeps everybody motivated.
Yeah, they feel part of the effort.
That's another.
So they don't wander off.
There you go. Morale, okay. Let's think more in terms of... What's that, Chowder? Yep. But not so much constant communication as the way you talk to your Zerg after a battle or before a battle, but during. What's the importance of a good, solid dialogue? People saying what's going on and the commander responding to that. What's the importance of that?
Communication is the key to any battle. The more you know before a fight, the more you'll be able to react to a situation.
User left your channel.
Mm-hmm.
The more information you have, you can't. There's no useless information in a battle.
Well, it's muscle memory for your brain too. If everybody is saying what their role is and they're calling out and responding to the commander's call out, then it becomes a habit, and habits win.
Yeah, even during the Takato battle that we had 30 minutes ago, we were calling out where champions were. We were posting respawn times.
Yep. Now both Glat and Ashera here have really hit it on the head. Ashera said, during a battle, you can't look everywhere as the commander. Very true. My ass has been saved, and lots of people's asses have been saved numerous times by somebody saying, oh, Jor, we got 10, 15 BP coming in from the west here. That's going to have a significant impact on what's going on in the current battle, right? Same as, like Glat said, I need to know when my water went up. And I'm not, I'm still working on, I'm training every day to improve my battle commanding. I'm still working on trying to keep a mental clock of, 45 seconds since my last water, Time doesn't exist in a battle. All I see is my cooldowns, and I'm just thinking, this is what I need now, So I need people to communicate with me just as much as I need to communicate with them. It doesn't mean we have to have everybody talking at once, but like Glad said, with time, with practice, it becomes a habit that you just call out, laying my water down. Flag going up on you, wells on your feet, stuff like that, just so that I know what I'm dealing with. Because if you didn't get your well off, and I'm expecting this big damage bomb to go off, I need to know. I need to know if it's going to happen or not, So that's really where this brings me to one of my final kind of points for the evening here, is a concept called stream of consciousness. And this is something that I read a while ago. It's like some high-level GVG guild was writing about it, and I thought it was actually a really interesting concept, because when you stop talking, when you stop communicating, even for a second during a battle, because it's all second to second in a fight, like some of the fights we've been in have seemed like endless, but really, they've really only been like 5-10 minutes, or some of the wipes we got today in EB, it seems like a few minutes during the fight, but really, if you were to look at your watch, it's only a couple seconds that it took for them all to go down and stuff like that, right? So the stream of consciousness is really important, because if you stop communication, if you disrupt it, people get lost. You lose the flow. It's like tightrope walking, or like walking the edge of a razor or something. It's that keen edge of focus in the middle of a battle that allows you to respond instantly to the changing circumstances. And when we've got good communication between everybody, especially between the commander and the Zerg, and everybody's moving as one, and bombing as one, and healing as one, that's where stream of consciousness really comes into play. That's how the Zerg goes from being many individuals to this single swirling hammer of destruction, right? So that brings me to that point I was talking about earlier. If you find yourself in a battle commanding situation, don't stop. Talk. Fill the space. Call out directions. Call out skills. Ask for reports. Do something, but just keep things moving. Eventually, like I said, it is. I remember one of the first times I started battle commanding, it was awkward. My mouth didn't move fast enough. I wasn't being able to say what I wanted to say, what I needed to say. But you'll never get to that point unless you fall down a bunch first. I've gotten wiped more times than I care to remember, but after that, I learned so much that now more often than not, I'm standing on the bodies of my enemies than the other way around. So the only way you can do it is to do it. And that's, I guess, brings me to my final point, really, is this week we're coming back from some intense fights. AR and BP, definitely worthy opponents. They got some good Zergs out there. We're going back down a tier, probably. This is what it looks like to me from the score anyway, so this is a little bit of speculation, but take advantage of this week. We're probably going to be up against Kaineng and maybe, I don't know, Sanctum Moral, IOJ, something like that. It's probably going to be an easier week. Get out there and take advantage of it. If you need support, if you want some people to come run with you, Thursday nights, War has a commander support night. So if you want to ask us for a little bit of support, we'll send some people to run with you. We really want to, like me personally, and I know my guild does too, we want to see everybody who wants to battle command be given the opportunity to improve and feel confident in battle commanding. And my final point of the evening is
User disconnected
to
from
ask,
the channel.
or to share with you guys, I guess, my inspiration for commanding, and maybe find out what you guys think about it. So for me, 3 things really motivate me to command. One of them is I want to be able to go where I want to go in World versus World without having to worry about an enemy Zerg. If something needs to be done for the tick, I want to be able to do it without having to worry about if it can be done or not.
User
So
joined
having
your
a
channel.
disciplined fight group with you to go do it is essential to have that kind of freedom, right? Another thing, I don't want to get wiped. I don't like dying. I don't, nobody likes that. Sometimes it has to be done. But if I can, I'd rather fight well and win than, just troll on up to a tower, put some rams down and get wiped 3 minutes later before I get the gate down, I guess my third inspiration for commanding, and you guys, like I said, if you guys have inspiration for commanding, share them now, and we can work on it. But it's just, I want people to have a good time, and I think everybody enjoys a good fight. I certainly do, especially in this game. This, wonderful game to play. And the only way you're going to get maximum enjoyment out of that is if you've got a group of people who are going to take it to the same level as you and want to do it with you, and you inspire people to follow you through a solid performance on the battlefield. So if any of those things resonate with anybody else, and wanting to do that, just think about it when you tag up, when you command, weigh the possibilities against the negatives of, what if I get wiped and people say, wow, this guy's not a very good battle commander. So what? Maybe you might not be right away. Nobody is right out the box. I've never heard a player who just picked up the game being an excellent battle commander. It's just not a thing. But I just want people to know you've got my full support. You've got my guild's full support in wanting to tag up, and I think I think I can say safely that you've got your server support. If you're willing to tag up and lead us into battle, whether it's whether you're the greatest commander in the world or you're just starting up, people appreciate that you're willing to take your time, and just know that in the back of your mind, even if you do get wiped, even if you can't even get inside the first gate of a keep, just keep in mind that next time will be better. You learn from this time, and it doesn't matter because the people that you're playing with, they're your friends. They're not going to judge you and dislike you for not being a good battle commander. Just don't be afraid to get out there and do it. So that cues things up for what I really wanted to talk about. Does anybody have any questions?
I am worried about, because I don't know, the role of rangers in the server.
Okay, no, that is a good question. Mainly, and I'm a little bit biased. I'm kind of like an old school Zerger. If it was up to me, there'd be only 4 classes in World versus World. Guardian, Warrior, Elite, Necro. But I realize the importance of the other ones.
The Ranger Entangle is really, really good if used right.
Yeah, it really is. And this is, in terms of Rangers, I kind of would put them in a similar grouping with like Mesmers and Thieves, right? Rangers got a lot of qualities that make them, if you build them a certain way, they're really excellent commander snipers, right? That's a really important thing. If you can take out an enemy Zerg's commander, they'll turn to a pug group right away, and then you can wipe them a lot easier. At the same time, Rangers are super, super excellent for, like Wolf and Howler just said to me, they're assassins, yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely workable. I also know of really durable Ranger builds that can provide, like, permanent swiftness. If you're at a loss for a Warhorn Warrior, grab yourself a Ranger. They've got a big leap skill. If you get a tanky Ranger, that's almost as good as a Warrior for, practical purposes when it comes to moving your Zerg around, getting a leap in, and even dropping a water field, actually, because the Ranger heal is a water field. So I mean, there's plenty for a Ranger to do in the Zerg if they find their niche, basically.
I would think of it as those certain classes or certain playstyles that fit into one of these broad archetypes, and like, for example, we have Guardians and Warriors as your heavies because those classes fit what we want those classes to do, but like sometimes I get tired of Staff LA, so I'm gonna do Dagger Focus or Dagger, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna be a Guardian now. If it's just because that's basically like you're basically doing that role, even if it's not as effective. So even if you have a Ranger or something, you can play it as your backline damage, or as your assassin, or as whatever.
Yeah, but actually a very versatile class.
Yeah, that's just what that's basically what I wanted to say. So it's like, if you have an NG, for example, like same thing, you could play an NG as a Guardian, but Well, I guess when you're saying like we need this many guardians, it's more of we need this many people with this certain role and this certain play style who don't necessarily have to be guardians.
Very good point there, because for you guys, like for you commanders who are here now, who are interested in starting up your battle commanding career, what's really key is having a consistent group, right? So if you're at a loss for a warrior or like a big damage backline, I mean, if you had a like a Zerker or a semi-Zerker ranger that could use, like the barrage skill and have that water field, that's, an entangle, not as often as a static, but I mean, it's almost the same types of things as an elementalist, So like, if you're, when we get into these fights again now with Kainang and IOJ maybe next week, and you're only up against fighting 10, 15-man groups again, don't be picky, just make sure that your people understand what it is they need to do, and, you'll maximize their effectiveness. So did anybody else have anything to ask or add?
Random thought. I don't know if how active your all's World vs. World build section is on the forums yet. I haven't looked, but if you guys are serious about getting comps together, it might be helpful if we get some builds out there, and then that way, as you have folks interested in running with you or just builds in general, they have somewhere to go look.
Is there anyone here who doesn't know how to build their class? Well, in terms of doesn't know who, I guess doesn't feel confident building their traits and their armor and whatever by themselves, or like have the resources to know like what to get, if that makes sense. Because I don't know, I think these builds are pretty fluid in terms of there's a certain amount of personal preference, and I don't like the idea of being this is what is ideal, because a lot of it is preference.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the word.
Or based on playstyle, or like even based on play skill. Like for example, I know if you are a staff ally, you're supposed to be pretty much pure Zoko, but if you just don't know what you're doing, you're gonna die instantly. So don't do that if you're new to staff ally. It's like there's so many factors that that change what you should be, that change up what build you should be making.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing would be synergy, though.
But there's also something to be said, like the meta builds that are supposedly amazing. If you don't find those fun, you really shouldn't do that build anyways, because it's still a game, and you should find your build that you're doing fun.
The idea behind posting builds and stuff like that, I have always stood by, build how you want to build, play the game how you want to play. That being said, if you want to be effective in a Zerg, certain setups are preferable, right? And it's up to the discretion of the player if they're Zerg battling and that's something that they want to do a lot of the time. If they find themselves not getting satisfactory results, well then at least that information will be there for people who want to look, and maybe just check out other builds or see, like, geez, what am I doing differently from people who, from the best that I could be for this particular circumstance, because like someone was saying, the builds on meta battle and whatever, they come from a general, like a broad look at what each class has to offer and what's really demanded of players in a Zerg fighting situation or what have you, So it's like, look, Guardian's got all these traits that it has access to. When you're Zerg fighting, some of these fit better into that particular environment, so why not trait like that? That's the idea behind some of that. And while we can work on getting builds posted and just to synergize a little better, like Lat was saying, by no means should anybody feel obligated to run anything specific or change their builds. It's more or less providing the different things that a battle commander might need, but doing it your own way. As long as you
I was just not I guess build was the wrong word. Just something to where, as a commander, you know that the folks in your group have the tools in the toolbox needed to go to work.
Exactly.
That's basically what I was trying to say.
We're coming up on the server reset meeting here now, guys. So in the next 15 minutes, does anybody else have anything they want to add? Maybe bring up?
Just something to add on to that point. Like the traits could be whatever. But if you find yourself like dying too much or a little more than you hope, a good thing to do is just buy more defensive gear. Just try to balance your build out.
And really, you should just start off with all soldier or whatnot.
Yeah, if you want to get the feel for your class, yeah,
start
definitely.
To add in more damage gear.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I did.
Yeah, that's
what I did.
That's a really, really good piece of advice.
That's what I'm doing.
That's good for everything too. PvE, dungeons, everything.
Yeah, just a good tactic.
I did that, and then Ed kicked my ass and told me to stop wearing such tanky armor, and I dropped down by about 800 toughness and realized I could still survive. It made me feel really good.
Then why did Ed tell me to get full trooper runes?
If you're a warrior,
those are good.
I'm a guardian.
They're good. They're good in the current meta if you're traded right.
Yeah, they're good on Guardian.
Yeah.
I suggest go with full nomad.
Yeah, that now. See, I was considering going with that, but I just wanted to keep a little bit of my damage, and I recently actually switched from soldiers to sentinels because as a guardian, I used to have to trait force of will to get my health high enough to be able to stand the counters.
sentinel gear.
It was
very expensive.
User joined your channel.
Well worth it, I say, because you can trade for true or pure voice then too, right? Shout recharge reduction, which is huge.
User disconnected from your channel.
The AR commando says that
an EV T3 key.
What's that?
There's about 25 plus AR at our inner now.
Oh, let's get there. Everybody get there.
Yeah, we need help here.
EV key.
Yeah, I'm not losing that.
I'm start putting down some ACs.
That's more than
You said
25.
EV, right?
Looks like.
Yeah, that's it.